So without further ado, let's get started with the presentation. Of course, this is our disclaimer, so any information that we do discuss is for informational purposes only and not for the purpose of providing legal advice. In much as labor and employment law is a dynamic field, often with varying results from state to state, and keep in mind different states have different state laws. Not all of them abide by the or fall under the FCRA, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, and they have kind of their mini FCRA in those states. You should contact your attorney to obtain advice with respect to any particular issue or problem. What we will learn today, first, we will talk about legally compliant employment applications. We'll talk about when is it appropriate to ask about criminal records with regards to arrest or conviction records. We'll also talk about what applicants lie about on their application, and yes, applicants do tend to bend the truth. We'll talk about proper notices that should appear on your employment application. We'll address questions that violate the Americans with Disabilities Act and the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. We'll discuss employment and education verifications, poorly written employment applications, and we have seen a lot of them due to the nature of the business that we are in. We'll also dive into state-specific laws regarding employment applications, and then lastly we'll finish with the proper disclosure and authorization form that you must get from the new hire or applicant to run a background check on them. So legally compliant employment applications. Like I had mentioned, state and federal labor laws are becoming more restrictive on what can and cannot be asked on employment applications with regards to past criminal history and date of birth. Now, you are able to ask an applicant's full date of birth, not an employment application, but on the release form that you're going to be used for running the background check. And the reason why is that in order for a background screening company to completely be able to complete a criminal background check, they must have a full date of birth from the applicant. So in those cases, the EEOC understands that the employer will need to have a full date of birth in order to run that background check. So in those cases, you are able to know the date of birth or ask for the date of birth from your applicant, but only on the release form, not on the employment application. Employment applications that violate any state and federal laws are subjected to fines ranging between $200 and $500. The best applications add the fact that you may do a background check on the front of the application. Do not put this notice on the back, small print, an asterisk, or not putting it at all. Please make sure to put on your employment application that you do run background checks on all new hires that process with your company. And this will simply deter any applicants who are hiding something to leave. And like we have mentioned in our previous webinars, we've had applicants come in, complete our application, and see that we perform drug tests and background checks on all new hires. They simply walk away, leave, say that they had something in their car, and never come back. So it's a really good deterrent, and it'll save you money. You won't have to invest the time and money on that applicant if, in fact, they won't pass their background check. So please, please make sure that on your employment application you are stating that you do run background checks on all new hires. And, of course, avoid questions having to do with age, sex, physical traits, and any disabilities on your application. None of this information you really need to know. All of this information, if you do use it in a discriminatory way, you could have huge legal costs. The EEOC is always receiving claims from applicants who have not gained employment, and they're all claiming discrimination. Is it appropriate to ask about arrest or conviction records? This section of the application is the most crucial and confusing to job applicants. I've seen so many different wording of asking, have you ever been, convicted, arrested for a crime? So we consider using the following example as a question. Have you ever, under your name or another name, been convicted of or pled guilty or no contest to a felony or misdemeanor? Now, criminal records are held by a name and date of birth match. So up front, you would like to know if they've gone by any other name. And that will definitely help the background screening company when doing the background check. Now, of course, we do a Social Security trace, we'll be able to find any and all names associated with that person. So here you're kind of testing their integrity. You're asking, first off, have you ever been convicted of a felony or misdemeanor? Not have you been arrested or have you been pulled over by the police, but have you been convicted, meaning pled guilty or pled no contest to. Again, we don't report dismissed cases, expunged cases, cases that have had a diversionary program. So you're only asking, what names have you gone by and have you been convicted of a felony or misdemeanor? So this is a very, very good verbiage that you should use on your employment application. Now, applicants don't know that you could search 7 years back. So you just want to know if they've ever committed a crime. And then, of course, when you do the background check, if it had occurred in the last 7 years, then it will come up on the background check. Document in the same section, now this is very important, document in the same section that no applicant will be denied employment solely on the grounds that they have been charged, committed, or convicted of criminal offense. And this is straight from the EEOC. As we had mentioned in our previous webinars, the EEOC is seeing an increase of discriminatory claims by minorities that due to their previous criminal convictions and credit history, they've been disqualified from jobs. So the EEOC really wants employers to look at 3 things when they receive a criminal conviction: the nature of the crime, how long has it been since the conviction of the crime, and the most important, is it related to the job that they're having? So an example is you have a delivery driver who's going to be making certain stops along his day, along his 8-hour day. He's going to be in the car probably 7.5 hours out of the day, and you found out that he was convicted of a DUI 2 years ago. And then he was also found guilty of driving on a suspended license due to that DUI last year. Obviously, the crime he committed is going to be directly reflected in the job he's going to be having as a delivery driver. So in that case, you would be warranted in not hiring him.